All right. Hey, Erica.
Hello.
Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, I'm so excited to chat with you today. This has been like a topic that I just emailed my list last night of like, I've been wanting to talk about chat GPT, but I've been like thinking about what I want to say because there's so much noise around it. And I just want to be conscious of that overwhelm that comes up when there's like a trend or just something that a lot of people are talking about, and just being conscious of what, just not saying something to say something, right? So, of course, I wanted to bring someone else to also help me with this topic, this trending kind of AI topic. And I thought of you, and yeah, so I'm really excited to get into Chat GPT around SEO today.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah. So why don't you go ahead and just introduce yourself to my audience? Tell us a little bit about what you do.
Yeah, my name is Erika Austin. I'm a digital marketing consultant, and I primarily work with marketers and agencies to do marketing better. So I have over 10 years experience working in-house digital marketing, actually for a tech company. So this tech company that I worked for, I had seen a lot of this AI brewing in sort of the computer hardware, people using it for
Yeah.
machine vision, machine learning, AI. So it's kind of interesting to see these two worlds collide right now.
Totally. And something we were talking about previously is that AI has been around for a while, but it's been kind of in the background brewing. I like that word. Like brewing is a good word. Yeah. Like
Yeah,
you, but I guess from a technical or SEO point of view, I guess we haven't really realized how much, or it's like I just knew it was there. Like I knew there was AI in different technology and different tools, but it wasn't just like the thing, right? And now
right.
I think a lot of people who aren't as in the tech world realize, oh, it's here. It's already here. It's like, yes, it is. And so anyway, I'm excited today to kind of get into that, like that, yeah, history, like take a step back. We're going to talk a little bit about how to start to think about using a tool like ChatGPT in SEO tasks. But I love this idea of just looking at a little bit more the history of AI. So I think you did like a little bit of research,
I
didn't you?
did. I did. Yes. Because I messaged my sister. I was like, ChatGPT, like, didn't we use this in like 1990? We would always like talk to chatbots all the time, just because it
Exactly.
was kind of like cool. And the thing that I had remembered was Alice. I was like, weren't we talking to a chatbot named Alice? And
Right.
and she had sent me an article. She's like, yeah, the artificial linguistic internet computer entity is what Alice stood for. But even before that, there was like an Eliza chatbot. So we've seen it in the world before, but specific use cases we've seen is like using chatbots on like your website to automate sort of the sales process or sort of automate some of the customer service inquiries that come in. And a lot of that was much more workflow like centric, where like you got to set up in the back end, oh, if somebody asks for this, or here are the prompts and here's what the response should be. So there was a
Right.
lot more like control. ChatGPT, I feel like, is this new evolution where it's a little bit more like freeform, and that's what people are like, whoa, like this is new and different. But I also was just thinking the parallels and evolution too. Alexa, Siri, like these are also these components of AI that we've been interacting with for years, but we may not have necessarily thought of it that way, because it was responding to us, actually like talking to us, versus you're seeing it being written out with ChatGPT.
Yeah, maybe the interface kind of creates that different experience. But yeah, I guess with Alexa, I don't know, everything's been building up to this point, right? And
Yeah.
so I think the other thing and I've talked to a lot of other SEOs and people in the tech world, is like Chat GPT it feels really personable.
Mm-hmm.
Like the way, well, just yesterday I was using it and I didn't get like that, hi, good morning or anything, but like just the way it responded was really friendly,
Mm-hmm.
which also changes the experience of like, it doesn't feel like a robot or something, not human, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did want to share though, that is that we are there's a few people that will say that like we're not too far off from like the robots thinking and feeling. I'm like, I don't think that's a thing yet. Like they can't process human emotions, they can interpret human emotions, and that's also, again, sort of how ChatGPT or all of this machine learning and AI, it's all based on the inputs that it's getting and it may output. And I've actually, how I've been using it for SEO too, has been thinking about it as an input. So it might help me in my process, but I'm not going to just copy and paste what it says and say, there's my SEO strategy. You still need to think about it as a way to augment, I guess, more augmented reality versus like just using it as your strategy. Because anytime anything feels too easy, I always am like, maybe, you should you should check that output a little bit more. So some things I recommend in terms of best practices is fact checking. I like to use ChatGPT because I work with a lot of companies in a lot of different industries, and I am not an expert in their industries. So when it comes to creating content, I might see a new term and I might sort of do some research about what it's about, but actually starting to write about it, like ChatGPT has been a great way for me to get sort of started with that inspiration. Like, how would I write about this thing that I don't know anything about? But that's where I rely a lot with the clients and working with them to say, like, does this make sense? You are the expert on this, and I think that sometimes the clients get digitally overwhelmed or don't know where to start too. So I think that that's also, again, just like seeing it as a prompt, as an input to your process versus, again, being the process.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think a lot of people are scared of, or like I guess I feel that there might be two camps of people, like the people who are like, okay, great. Like, I don't, I can use this. It's a tool. Great. And then there might be another camp that's a little bit like, I don't know how I feel about this. Like some things writing for me, like like you just said, I'm the expert.
Mhm.
And the reality is like, yes, AI is pulling it, it pulls from different sources from the internet, right?
Yep.
Information, and it learns from us. But at the end of the day, AI can never have our experience, right? And a human experience,
Mhm.
which is this new E, right? That we keep, well, Google came out with the EAT.
Yeah,
So
actually, I'm glad you mentioned that because I was thinking about that too, of how that relates to this whole conversation. So yeah, the
yeah,
original EAT is expertise, authority, and trust. Those were
yes,
sort of the core fundamentals of thinking about anything that you're putting out there. Um,
yes.
as it relates to SEO. And yeah, they introduced this new E for experience, right? So I've been thinking that there's also coming to this new EAT, which is experience, authenticity, and transparency. Be-
Ah.
yeah, that's again, don't quote me. Nobody's actually put that out, but I've been noticing that that's kind of where we're headed,
Yeah.
because ChatGPT, again, like you kind of need an authenticity element to it to still engage with your audience. And a chatbot may not do that, but it can do it pretty well. But again, I think having that human review on the output and being able to review it. And then the transparency piece is especially like Europe's been ahead of like all these data laws, and the US is starting to finally catch up with it. And I'm seeing those roll out, and a lot of it's just sharing more transparency in what data and information you're collecting, being more transparent about the technologies that we use. So that's kind of like my hot take on where the new EAT or our seconds on EAT might be
Yeah.
headed.
Yeah. And that also, I feel like it takes out that fear of like, you still need to be involved in your SEO and your writing. And for those of you who like just feel like this is like an icky robot thing. It's like, no, this is just another tool, just like you use some keyword research tool or any tool, right, to do work in your business. This is a tool that's assisting you. It's not going to replace you. Now, there are some things that will shortcut, like maybe with ChatGPT, which a lot of people have talked about, like maybe some aspects of the keyword research journey are faster, or you're just able to pull more ideas, or I've been using it for outlining content, sometimes can be helpful. We're actually going to have a second session. Stay tuned for those of you where we're going to show our screens and like share how we've been using it and kind of go through some prompts. But I do like, we don't recommend copying and pasting exactly and just like that's it. And actually Google doesn't recommend either, and they've said that they can detect when it's AI only written content, which is interesting to think about. So that's not what we recommend at all. And you really want to be in your content infusing, like we just said, like, why are you the authority? What's your experience with this? And even looking beyond Google is like, humans want to hear from other humans, right? So if I'm going to climb the Himalayas, which I won't, but let's say I wanted to, right? Like, okay, I might ask ChatGPT some tips around that, or like Google, but then I want to meet someone, like I want to see their video footage, right, of them on top of that mountain. And like, I want to understand like what happened there, right? And so that, unless I guess maybe eventually a robot might climb a mountain, but you know what I mean? Like there's some things that for now robots don't have that experience. And they don't have preferences, which is interesting, right? So I think I asked it once, like, what's your favorite ice cream? And it said to me, like, I don't have a favorite ice cream. And I think that's also something to take into consideration, because as humans, we do have preferences and opinions, and we are attracted to other people who are usually along our lines. Or if they're not, we're also fascinated by people who aren't in our opinion, right?
Yeah.
And so that's something else, like AI won't replace that. I mean, who knows? Maybe in the future, I don't know, robots will have opinions, like, but for now, it's up to us to blog and to create content that has yes, that flavor of human, of saying like, this is what I believe, this is what's worked for me. I recently became a mom, and I read along mom blogs. I need to know that there's a mom behind that blog, because it just creates that connection, like reading about sleep routines or food. Like it just is like, I would feel weird if it was just all AI written. It would just be like, okay, so these are the best nutritional foods, but like, what's that secret sauce that you added to that dinner plate that your kid loves, right? So, and like, that they love it because you've tried it 20 times, right? And they didn't throw it against the wall, right? you have that experience of 2 a.m. of like your kid going back to sleep. So again, that sort of thing, like you need to infuse that into your content, and you need to be able to show people and Google your experience and your experience, your expertise, your authority, all the things, and the trust part as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I also would just like some more tactical things, but with AI too, is fact checking. We do know with ChatGPT, it's been fairly accurate from my experience, but I have been hearing, Google kind of tried to rush because ChatGPT is like really big right now. So they rushed Bard, which was their AI version. I haven't tried it yet. I'm on the wait list, but I've been seeing screenshots of like, they're not providing the most accurate results. So again, be very conscious that like you're putting information out there that's like validated and true. And again, if you're a subject matter expertise, lean on your expertise versus
absolutely
what ChatGPT is going to generate. Checking for grammar. I also like to say, like, within your brand voice and guidelines, like how do you speak? And that human element, like chat bots and AI, like I don't know that they will always pick up on sort of those little ways that you might speak. Like sometimes I wrote an article and I sort of threw in a bunch of little like expressions.
Jokes?
Like
okay.
like like gulp, like
or like a hem.
yeah, exactly, like all those little things. That's just how I write, because that's how I speak, so that I think also kind of creates that human connection of,
Yes.
and so yeah, checking for that it's still within like your tone and it makes sense and that it still feels authentic to you when you put it out there, I think are some of those, again, sort of like technical check boxes. After it has generated it, again, you can accelerate maybe your content generation because you have a chatbot kind of helping you create new ideas and angles, but then you still
Yes.
have that like thorough checking. Yeah, I actually used ChatGPT recently for somebody, and I said, okay, I did the keyword research and I said, okay, ChatGPT, like, what's an angle that I could write about this? And it started to talk to me about the pandemic. And I was like, oh, maybe like timing wise, it's not really like, really people are over the pandemic right now. Like nobody wants to read more content about that. Like, can you give me another angle? And so that was kind of, again, that brainstorming element and sort of working with it, feeling like it's just sort of a virtual assistant that I don't like see, but is kind of helping me with that ideas. Then it kind of helped me develop that pitch and that content a little bit more thoroughly. So again, it may not be sort of like that first try too, what you're prompting. It could take a few like iterations before you get to the point where you're like, okay, this feels like it could, you know, be the right message for what my audience might be looking for.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I've heard a lot of people had success with like not asking it once or twice, but asking it like 4 or 5 times for different things. And it like eventually started to like, I guess, get some gas in there. I don't know.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, like I think, what was it? It goes up to 2019 or 2020 or 2021. I can't remember. Like it doesn't know recent history. I think it goes 2-3 years back. Like it doesn't know the World Cup for soccer, like, which is Argentina. Like it doesn't know certain things. And a lot of people in the tech community have found errors. Like it'll spew out an error. Like it's a tool, like anything, like it will have errors. It's not perfect. So it's not, yeah, I would verify if you are using it for fact information and it's not your expertise. Like if you're doing research for a client or something, double, triple check what it says. Because there's a possibility that's wrong. And it does apologize when it's wrong. I don't know.
Oh, I didn't see it apologize.
It apologized to us once.
Right.
So yeah, you have to take that. Again, it's not going to replace that work that you have to do behind like your how you're writing and like checking information, and just like you would maybe hopefully double check things on Google sometimes, right? Or I mean, some things feel pretty certain, like if you Google someone's famous age or, you know, something from Wikipedia, it feels pretty okay. But yeah, all tools can be wrong, and you know, there can be aspects of the tool that are more wrong, like just certain areas it doesn't know as much about. So all right, so in terms of SEO, like I said, we're going to do another call and like really show, but I guess I wanted to run through specifically, like I've been using it for these things, like outlining, like I mentioned, keyword research. And I also have heard people using it for like generating titles, generating meta descriptions, generating like paragraphs of text with keywords, or just generating small snippets. Outside of SEO, I've also used it for I was writing a project proposal, and it helped me with that. I was just feeling really stuck that day. I also was using it for writing uncomfortable emails, like that, all that stuff. It kind of helps because sometimes it's just one of those communication blocks. Like you said, like having an assistant, like, can you help me write this? And then like I go in and I edit it so it sounds like me, but it makes it easier, right? I don't know if you've been using it for other things as well.
Yeah. So again, one is sort of like this topic ideation, or at least again, like you said, sort of like an outline of like, where do I kind of get started in this piece?
Yes.
But I also had used it for headlines as well. And some of the times like it's a little bit cheesy, like the headline that gave me back.
Totally.
Like, okay, try again, make it less like you can again.
You
ask it
say to it,
multiple questions. Yeah.
make it less cheesy.
Yeah, make it less cheesy. Or can you write it from this perspective? So, if an audience is towards somebody's child versus somebody's parent, like maybe that angle is going to be a little bit different. So you can, again, prompt these types of questions for try this headline, but for an adult or for a parent. And it can give you, again, some suggestions. Again, I always take those as inputs of like, okay, that was interesting advice. Like, I'm still going to probably tweak it a little bit more. But you can also prompt it to say, well, I liked that headline, but now try it under 60 characters because, with some headlines, you have a character limit. So you can even, again, prompt those types of questions and say, okay, I liked that direction that you provided, but make it a little bit shorter and briefer for, this channel that I need it for. Or I've also used headlines like, what would work for an email audience versus like a pay-per-click headline. I've actually prompted that as well to see if they suggested like different outputs for that. And again, it's all just inspiration for me. I never just copy and paste it and go like, yep, they did it. But it's again kind of helping with a virtual like assistant essentially of trying to back and forth that brainstorming process till you get to a place where you're like, okay, this makes sense to me. I feel good about sharing this out with the world. So another example, though, completely opposite end that I did try this with is I ran a crawl on a website and it just told me, like Screaming Frog just said, like bad HTML element. And I was like, okay, like that's very vague of an
the
error.
Worst error ever. Like, God, let's say that.
I mean, it sounds very like scary, like, oh, bad HTML, like what's wrong? So I copied the head of the post into ChatGPT and I said, what's wrong with it? And it actually gave me a few things. It was like, oh, this element doesn't have a close tag, and you didn't properly install Google Tag Manager. And I was like, okay, like this gives me something to go on versus just sort of this random error. So being able to, I think that's really exciting. And again, I am not a developer, so I can't necessarily say that like that is the best solution. But to me, as somebody who understands code just enough, I feel like it's very helpful to kind of get me to that next step to send it to a developer, and instead of, because I used to get developers just like rolling their eyes at me because I'd be like, something's wrong. And they're like, can you narrow it down a little bit? I'm like,
I relate to that so much.
So now I can be like, on this line, maybe check if does everything look okay to you? Because something might not be right. Like at least I can narrow it in a bit than just being like, the website's wrong,
It reminds me when I go to the mechanic and I try to imitate the noise the car is making. I'm like, it sounds like here, but I don't know. And the guy's probably like, okay, calm down. Let's just go for a ride. And then it doesn't make that noise while he's in the car. I'm like, make the noise, please.
Always happens to me. Anytime I would call like IT tech support, like it would just auto fix itself. And I swear it was doing that a second ago.
Yeah, no. So ChatGPT can write code. Surprise. Yes. I mean, maybe some of you knew that, maybe some of you didn't, but this is magical, right? Because like we can find errors, we can ask it to write things. Again, you have to know what to ask, but if you dabble in code, it can be so helpful. To find errors or to just add certain snippets of code. And I was reading about how these sites like Stack Overflow, which are like huge code forums, like those, interesting enough. I still think those are going to exist because we want to know, again, the human who tried the code, but it's going to be also helpful to have like this person who's not rolling your AI, who's not rolling your eyes. And when you ask it, like, can you please look at the line or like verify code to like, is this code?
Actually, I just wanted to revise my statement too of like, I would never just like implement code that I don't understand into somebody's website, right?
I
Like, so I'm
might.
not taking I am not taking
On a
ChatGPT.
staging, on a
Okay,
staging, on a staging.
on a staging, yes, I would. But yeah, on
No experiment.
production, I would never do that. And that's,
Yeah.
again, it's my helpful way of being like, hey, I know something's wrong, and now I can send
Yes.
it to a developer to look at, and they're not just like, yeah, mad at me because I just said like something's wrong.
They don't know where to look. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's interesting. The other thing I've heard or someone telling me to write bios,
Oh yeah.
because I know a lot of us struggle with bios because it's weird to talk about yourself in third person.
Mhm.
And I had one person say to me that they wrote like, this person living in, I don't know, Alabama, I'm just making up the state. And the bio was like really accurately like stereotypical to like what someone in that state would do. Like they're like, they like this and they like eating this and they like doing this in their free time. And they said it really was helpful. So I don't know. I thought that was interesting of like,
Yeah.
it knows it knows quite a bit. Like it's able to just take information and cross information geographically and otherwise, and so anything you're struggling to write, I feel like it's a great, instead of just having that blank sheet of paper, you have like a base that you can then take and edit and play with.
Yeah. And I would say another sort of like super tip here is that if you start with ChatGPT and then run it through like Grammarly. If you use Grammarly, that's another sort
Yes.
of content AI that checks for these grammar. I feel like that really gets you to close to a place where, again, you can kind of feel like it might not have that human element, but at least you're sort of editing the content for grammar. It sort of makes more sense reading it wise. And
Mhm.
I also like about Grammarly is it tells you sort of like the level of reading it might take. So it might be like a fifth grader could read this, or like, no, somebody very technical is
Mhm.
going to need to know this in order to read this. And
Yeah.
so I feel like it's also just kind of another helpful tool together. Those two can get
Yes.
you further along than, again, if you were to just kind of write freestyle.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I love that. While we're talking about alternative tools, the other one that I recommended to my SEO course before ChatGPT came out was Jasper. It was
Oh yeah.
previously called Jarvis.
Hmm.
And that one is really cool because it like has already content structures. So it's like writing an email, writing a blog post. So it already knows what it's writing. And then it's pretty good. Like I was playing around with that over a year ago. And so it's a little more structured. Like ChatGPT is like an open chat, right? You can ask it
Yeah.
anything, but this is very much for business content creation. And so it's a little bit more, and I think they don't have a free option. It's all paid. I think they
Okay.
do like a trial, but that's like another alternative if you want to explore alternatives that feel a little bit more structured or just like working towards something specific.
Yeah. And ChatGPT is free for now. I don't know if that's
Exactly.
going to be a thing forever for free, but I feel
Right.
like, again, since it's so early on, that they're offering it for free. And there's some limitations with the free version. Actually, the other day I couldn't access it because the
Right.
servers there was too much usage happening. So
Mhm.
I got locked out. So again, it's nice that it's free, but I wouldn't rely on it being a free tool.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, and we know that Google is coming out with theirs and every company is coming out with their version of AI, so I'm sure soon we'll just have like our options and like we'll decide what we want to invest in, and yeah, it's just like another tool. So
Mhm.
it's kind of fun.
Yeah. And
Awesome.
I
Yeah.
also, it's a little side stuff from SEO, but I also do advertising. And so definitely with Google Ads, we started to see a lot of this like machine learning, AI starting to pop up. They had a campaign that they rolled out called Performance Max that was just like, give us your headlines and your assets and like, we'll serve it to your audience. And a lot of advertisers, myself included, were like, but where is it running and like what's working, like how, give me a little bit more context so I know what to optimize for.
Right.
And after they released that, they just recently announced that they're adding more features, adding more controls, transparency around that. So I do think, again, all of these different companies are listening to the community feedback and evolving their tools. So that's also kind of, I just wanted to share of like a parallel too, is that like ChatGPT and all of these different AI tools, like they could also evolve based on a lot of the community feedback. So that's exciting, because yeah, I was definitely discouraged when I was like, oh, Performance Max just took my job. and then, and then again, it's gotten to a point where I'm like, okay, now I can work with this tool and it makes more sense and I'm able to explain it. So yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting to see how it will evolve. And I think like a lot of, I don't know, someone was asking me, someone was, I mean, there's always the fear of like, oh, it's going to annihilate all the SEO's job. And
yeah,
I think I had one night where I couldn't sleep, where I was like, okay, but no, it can't, because humans want to talk to me. Like they don't want to talk to the AI, right? And they want to know how to use this, right? And my clients, like, if I'm feeling a little FOMO over this or weird about it, I can imagine they're feeling that three times, right? So I think at the end of the day, there still needs to be a human behind that setup, right? So there will be some things that are faster, easier, like we talked about, maybe title tags come easier, but I still feel like we're attracted to like hearing from other people and seeing what they do. And then anything that it does automate, it should have been automated anyway. Like it just was taking way too much time for us to do that, right? Like the code thing, I don't feel like you're able to add that much special value finding that error. It's like, okay, now you can just fix it, right? Instead of having to spend that hour looking for that thing. So I think it's just going to make our jobs easier. I do feel like strategy is just something also you have to like look at, because depending on your business, strategy is going to change. And there's like just a lot of nuances to that. So AI, maybe it gives you like a cookie cutter strategy for your SEO, for any other part of your business for that matter. But then you have to think about it, and you have to work with a business coach or an SEO expert, whoever who has that experience, that how does that apply to your business? So again, going back to what we were saying at the beginning, like there's all this knowledge, but then there is that experience aspect. And who knows, maybe in the future, there will be people who are like, I prefer to use my AI to like guide me, and like I don't want to speak to as many humans. And then there will be other people who are like, no, I don't know. I'm not threatened by it. I think it's fascinating, and I think it's going to help us in many ways. And so I see it as just another tool.
Yep.
So yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's a lot of potential. There's a lot more use cases that we are yet to see, but it's exciting. But I am not fearful of the fact that a tool is going to replace me.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, it's okay, so we're going to be doing part 2. I'm going to be announcing when, because I think we set a date, but I want to just confirm that before I announce it officially. And we're going to be going through specifically, like really specifically, sharing our screens, how we use the tool for SEO and maybe other things too. And hopefully that will help you guys just use it more effectively, just like look at the full potential and just have fun, right? At the end of the day. So just wrapping up, Erika, if you want to share just a little bit where people can hang out with you and find your work.
Yeah. So Erika Austin, that's ErikaAustin.com is my website. And if you can find me on LinkedIn as well, it's LinkedIn/in/Erika Austin, again, ErikaAustin. And yeah, feel free to connect or reach out to me, and looking forward to it. Thank you.
So I'm just looking, someone actually asked a question in the chat, and they asked, what is Google's version of AI? It's called Bard.
Yep, Bard. And I think just like days ago, they released it in a beta. Again, I'm on the wait list. I haven't actually seen it yet, but I've been seeing a lot of like it's not as polished yet, I would say. As a nice way of saying it. It's been a little bit like, I think somebody was sharing an example that it said Mayuary instead of May.
Oh no.
I know. Yeah, so it's still learning. It's still young.
And then Bing has one too, maybe?
Yeah, so Bing AI, I believe is what they're calling that.
Yeah.
Bing is owned by Microsoft, and I know Microsoft has a stake in ChatGPT. So I think that they're using a framework of ChatGPT and enhancing it for their own audience, I think. Again, not this is all like happening in real time and so fast. It's hard to keep up, but that's what I generally have that understanding that Bing's coming up with its own one too.
Yeah, I think everybody's gonna get a stake in this. I mean, and I feel like Google has been working on this for a while. Like, it's, again, for some of you, it's like, it seems all brand new, like kind of out of the word works, but this is something that Google has aspects of AI in its algorithm too. Like, AI is everywhere, right? It's just like how we're experiencing it with ChatGPT is like this different experience for some of us. So, but like I've heard that Google has had it in the woodworks, but why has it been delaying it? Because it kind of interferes in a way, or it just changes our perception of how we use Google search, because Google is known for that, right? Or it's known for many different products, right? They have all sorts of their suite of products. So I think part of the issue isn't the technology doesn't exist. It's more the how do we position this, right? So that people are maybe using both. I've heard that they were going to like add it. I don't know if this is live in some places, but they were going to add it like as a sidebar in the Google search. So you're like searching and then you're like maybe asking the AI tool as you're searching.
Interesting.
So I think that's why with Google, with the company that launched ChatGPT, which is called OpenAI, they don't have that problem, right? Because this is their prime product, so it's different.
Yeah, I saw a lot of headlines initially about like, like this is going to take over Google search, our need to Google things, and I was like, I don't think so. I don't think that's going away. And search engines, it works so much differently than ChatGPT. Again, you are trying to index pages that go to specific websites that have this information. So yeah, I still think it's going to be around. My guess of why they sort of waited and then sort of released it was trying to work out all of the bugs and everything like that, and making sure that it's working as expected and smooth. But I do think that based on what I've seen just in the headlines recently, it's been a little bit rough, but new tech.
What and we have really high expectations for Google, right? Like Google
I think that's part of it too, is that like, everybody's sort of expecting it to be better than what we've already experienced already. And I think that, that's why I think a lot of these are still in their sort of beta phase. Like they're still waiting to get to the point where we feel comfortable with it, to a point where it's going to be like more mass released. So
exactly. Yeah. Oh, so exciting. Kind of cool.
It is
during this time.
I know. It's interesting because I keep on absorbing all of these different headlines and what's new, and to quote your podcast, digitally overwhelmed, quite digitally overwhelmed myself. So it's nice though to again sort of take those in stride and just kind of sit back and sort of see how it's evolving and making it for me. And hopefully the things that we discussed today can help people who are listening. That it works for you as well. So
you don't have to use it. I know it sounds kind of
that's true
at the end of the conversation, but like honestly, these things just SEO moves slow. Like some things are fast, but like you can just take it slow and just take it like it needs to be like dabble in it, like experiment with it if you want, but you're not like forced to like suddenly have to use it.
And
Yeah.
A/B testing is a pretty like common thing in marketing too. It's like maybe you have something that's on the same subject, but you have two different angles to it. One you write without any kind of intervention, and one you kind of use ChatGPT to start. Again, with what we discussed today, still you need to fact check it, but put those things out there and see, you know, how do these perform? Maybe there's something to learn there as well.
That's smart. Yeah, that's like a very level-headed way to just A/B test it and see what happens. And yeah, I think there's no pressure. It gets to work for you at the end of the
Hmm.
day. So
Hmm. Yeah.
awesome, Erica. Well, thank you so much. Just repeat
Yeah.
again where people can find you so that we like get that at the end.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Erika Austin, so ErikaAustin.com. That is my
Awesome.
website, and you can
Cool.
reach out to me there.
Awesome. All right. Well, I'm excited for part 2 coming up. And yeah, have a great day.
Thanks, you too. Thanks for having me.